self-love from like the superficial place, the kind of narcissistic individualism, that's different than real self-love. Real self-love is actually understanding that your actions and your feelings about yourself affect the whole. Style is a way of expressing your brightest way of being. What fashion sort of tries to make you do is to be afraid to stand out. That, to me, dims a person. Whoever said that you have to be a certain age to be beautiful, you have to be a certain weight to be beautiful, you have to be a certain skin color to be beautiful, you have to be a certain gender to be beautiful. Everybody possesses beauty. It's something that you need to get back in touch with and reclaim and uncover within yourself. So hi, everyone. I am so excited to have Lily, my daughter and the co-founder of StyleLikeU and my partner, here to do a beautiful wrap-up and commemorating and celebrating of season 2 of our podcast, Don't Change a Thing. This season of the virtual podcast has been deeply meaningful to me in many ways because it was my launch into interviewing people completely on my own and doing a whole season of our content and our interviews without Lily, without you. And it was a really great experience for me. I feel like I've grown a lot. I've become more confident. So I'm really excited to be here with Lily, celebrating, talking about all the incredible people that we interviewed and all the messages as we wrap up this season of Don't Change a Thing.
So, Mom, for this season finale, we're turning the tables, and I am going to interview you, let you take a little relaxer, take a seat back, and enjoy the ride, because I've prepared some questions for you that I'm curious about in reflecting on how this season was for you, what you learned, what was hard about it, what was growth-inducing about it. So I'm going to take the interview seat and, join me, if you will.
Okay, well, I'm really happy to sit back.
Yeah. All right. Well, first, this one wasn't on my list of questions, but let's hear about what you're wearing today and what do you think it says about how you're feeling today?
Well, it's an interesting question regarding this dress because I think this dress is probably literally my favorite dress.
You say that about literally everything, but okay, go on.
I do say that literally about everything, but last week I went to a vintage market and I bought a pair of shoes, these shoes.
Those are great, yeah.
I know, and I was very excited about them. I felt like they were screaming my
Your
name. For people that are listening. They're like these velvet, brocade, fuchsia pink, gold embroidered mules with light blue velvet. I don't know, I think I'd call it rococo type of heel, maybe. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't wait to wear them that night. In my mind, I'm doing what I do to be happy, be calm, just in my imagination around clothing and getting dressed. And I'm thinking about, these shoes are just perfect with this dress. And I go to look for it like literally 5 minutes before I need to be somewhere, which is always how I do everything. And that wasn't a good idea because I couldn't find it.
And then you texted me and asked if I gave it to my friends.
Yeah, and I
that would be crazy if I just took your like really nice dress and just like didn't tell you.
I was trying everything because my room that serves as a closet is the biggest mess you have ever seen in your life. So it's just so upsetting when I can't find something because this could take like days to find it in there. So I had to go to dinner with another dress and those shoes, which I handled it. And then I had to sleuth my way through where that dress was and whether I had fully lost it somehow or where it was. And I figured it out that I had worn it. Thank God for selfies because I had worn it at going to a Nick Cave concert in San Francisco. And I wore it partly because it's his wife's clothing line, Vampire's Wife. And I suddenly in meditation the next day realized that's where I last wore it. And I went to look at the selfie in the elevator and sure enough, there it was. I had left the dress. So this is one of my absolute favorite dresses. It's named after Villanelle. You know the TV show? I forget the name of the TV show where she plays Killing Eve. Yes. And I love that TV show.
Oh, yeah. I never watched Killing Eve.
It's me in a dress because the colors I absolutely love. It's kind of reminiscent for me a little bit of the pre-Raphaelites, one of my favorite periods of art. And it just kind of reminds me of that kind of clothing and what they might be wearing in a painting with sort of the high, the puffy shoulders, the royal blue with all the roses. And I love roses. I paint roses.
You love flowers. I mean, my mom, when we're walking around her neighborhood, like she just makes you pause and she'll be like, really? Look at this flower. Just take a second. Like, look at how perfect this flower is. And I love when you're tapped into your flower energy. So your dress is definitely representing that part of you. Whenever I've ever taken mushrooms in my life, like psychedelic mushrooms, I'm always like, I'm on my mom's wavelength now. Like, this is how she always feels.
And I've talked about this before on the podcast, but I'll say it again. I see all of nature, I see it as clothing. And if nature is doing it, obviously it does it in the most exhilarating perfection. It's how we should be thinking. Like we're so constricted. This can only be with this, and that color is only with that. And then you'll see nature, and you'll see like odd colors together in the same flower. I take so much inspiration from it all. And the biggest amount of inspiration that I take from it all is if this is coming out of the universe, a star popping out of the center of the flower, like a starburst. And then there's 5 layers of colors on top of each other inside of it in the most perfect symmetry.
It is really crazy.
I'm just like,
and it makes you think a lot about like the way we constrain ourselves with what to wear, but also the way we constrain ourselves with like how we're supposed to look and I can't. I have to look skinny like everyone else, or I have to look this way like everyone else. But it's like flowers aren't trying to look like other flowers, and trees aren't trying to. That always blows my mind when I think about that and how ridiculous it is how we all think about how we're supposed to.
Well, I was about to say that if there's that kind of perfection, and obviously there's so much beauty and perfection that comes out of the universe, how do we think that doubting ourselves and not loving ourselves could be right? It makes me want to cry. I mean, I literally get choked up saying it. Like, it's just not how it's supposed to be. It's just not how it's supposed to be. And I want to scream it. Whenever I step into new and uncomfortable situations like this, doing this podcast on my own without you, and the way that you and I are branching into different directions, and me more into my own talents, you branching into yours, and us not being together so much, that was a level of discomfort that I feel I'm getting more and more solid with. And now I'm in this whole new level of discomfort, with all of the great things that we're planning that are coming up for our YouTube channel and StyleLikeU, continuing with our content. And there's a lot of old things coming back and new things happening. And I feel so much doubt comes up, so much self-doubt. Like when I'm this uncomfortable and I feel this much in the air and there's so much uncertainty, I just hear that like inner voice that I'm carrying around, that part of me that feels disconnected from the perfection of the universe, that felt unsupported as a child, that doubts myself so much, that doesn't think that what I have to say matters, or that I don't matter, or these things that play in my head that come up when I take these challenges and step into uncomfortable situations come out. And then this morning it was happening, and all of a sudden something popped into my head that said, but it's not about you. And to me, that goes back to the flowers. Mm-hmm. It's like the thing that gets us all so, I think, contorted and twisted and away from the fact that we are absolutely here like the flower to bring beauty into the world, to be vessels of beauty and light and positivity, and that we're here to be our biggest selves, not small, not feeling like we're nothing, is to stop making it about us.
Yeah.
That's so relieving. And it's just what you're supposed to do here.
Yeah. Well, it's no wonder that my question about what your outfit says about you led to the first 15 minutes of philosophizing about the deepest things you think about in the world and in your purpose. That's the most Elisa thing ever, and also the most StyleLikeU thing ever. That a simple question about our style could lead to very profound insights. Back to my regular scheduled questions. Tell me what for you was like the biggest struggle and also the biggest source of joy and growth in hosting this season of Don't Change a Thing Without Me.
There wasn't much of a struggle, honestly. It was very fluid and fun. And I had this incredible team of people, Kimberly Henry producing, who is so amazing and has been so much fun to work with, and everybody. There wasn't much of a struggle, really. It says a lot about, at the end of the day, how much wasted time we do worrying or anticipating things. And in reality, it was just, I really had a pretty easy time being one-on-one all the time with everybody. And especially, and I'd say maybe the challenge was to just let go, let go, let go, just trust, just trust, just trust. I think it was great for me because I did pretty much no planning, which is how I work well. And I wasn't doing a lot of checking off boxes. And I was, just able to be more myself that way and fluid and just let them go where they went. One struggle was just interviewing people in a way that's a conversation and that I'm in. Mm-hmm. It's different than doing what's underneath or a closet or interviewing other people. Mm-hmm. The way the conversation goes and meanders and allowing it to be that. It's different than sort of wrapping it up in a bow like our other videos. And I think that would get a little hairy for me sometimes. Mm-hmm. If it started to wander off or when to ask, like the timing of things with you. I always felt so covered because if it was going too far in a certain direction, we always bounce off each other and I would always have you to bounce off of. So maybe very often it would go very far into it before I even asked one of the most critical questions that would open up the person for it to become more intimate, less intellectual. And it would just take a little bit more time for me to get there. But at the end of the day, I just learned to just trust it and it worked out. And the more that I let go, the more it worked out.
And what about, was that the same joy? Like, was joy or growth in the letting go? Like,
yes.
Flip side of the
tremendous amount. A lot less doubting of myself and a lot more just enjoying the interview and enjoying the process rather than being anxious around it or putting too much on it from the beginning or needing it to be something and just allowing it to breathe and be what it is.
Mm-hmm. I have the same thing happening for me on the flip side of what I'm doing, which is like making different documentary film projects on my own where I'm used to having you part of the creative process with me to ask and be like, do you think we got enough? Do we need to go more with this? I'm used to having you as someone to bounce things off of in that way too. And I have like my project, they're much more long-term and I haven't not even gotten to the part of editing any of it yet. So I still haven't found out if I'm doing okay with the like self-trust, but it is the same muscle of learning to trust myself and embrace imperfection. Even if I do make a mistake, like knowing that I'll be able to like work with that mistake creatively in the way a project ends up coming together, being willing to like be learning and whatever. But so I think we're both kind of facing the same feelings of like being used to having each other to make calls with and just to lean on when in moments of self-doubt, and we're having to just like lean on ourselves in a way that is new and challenging but also exciting and thrilling
and healing for both of us and healing for our relationship. Mm-hmm. We've been so used to each other side by side for so long that there is somewhat of a sense of fuzzy lines, like in terms of identity or just feeling autonomous and feeling like you can handle things, solo. And that might sound like
we became a bit codependent probably in ways that we didn't totally even realize.
Right.
Right.
And yes. And we were actually talking the other day. We're just stepping into new waters and the new ground of, being together, not, in ways that are not just about StyleLikeU, which is a whole beautiful and interesting and weird. And there's a lot going on there and more of that to come. But I also wanted to just say that I trust it. I know you trust it too. We trust it. We trust the whole thing.
What were some of the biggest lessons or takeaways or highlight moments that really stand out to you that shifted something inside of you, a perspective?
Wow, there's so many, because every single person I came away excited and feeling like I had learned so much. I feel like everybody, for the most part, is struggling with the pain of the world that we're in right now and the magnitude and overwhelm of what we're seeing and what we're dealing with. And I just want to, of what we're seeing, because I think that there's been a lot of ugliness and pain in the world, but it's just all out there and we're seeing it all in its most heightened form right now. And with the internet and with everything and social media, everything is just really there. We're all just extremely upset about it and in a lot of our own pain around it. But that everybody, I feel, seem to be in agreement that the most important thing right now is our own regulation and not being reactive, not allowing fear and jumping into fight or flight and negativity to take over, and to take a moment and take a beat and get centered and grounded in our own selves so that ultimately we can be our best selves in response to this, and really take a moment to find out how each of us can contribute to that without just being in a freak out. And I know it was very, very helpful to be having these conversations during this time for me, because I tend to just jump into action and be very reactive to things.
And be very dysregulated.
And be very dysregulated. And actually, I can say right now that I'm in a very regulated state, like over this time period, which normally would have thrown me into chaos and dysregulation. I haven't done that. I've done the opposite, and I've become more and more healed. And some of that is disconnecting from social media, the scrolling and the doom scrolling, the preoccupation with all of the negativity that is constantly triggering me 24/7. And ultimately, I don't feel doing any good. And we're in such a monumental moment of transformation. And I feel that everybody is in touch with the fact that as much as there's so much darkness and pain, there's also a lot of enlightenment and highly conscious, collective consciousness that's going on that's very evolved and forward thinking. And while these two things are going on, that we all have to take a beat and a moment to make sure that we stay in a high place and not get dragged down by the negativity, which is basically what the negativity wants us to do.
With the ultimate goal of figuring out how to contribute and participate in the most useful ways.
Most useful ways. And these are even conversations I'm having everywhere, like walking everywhere, within the podcast, but everywhere. I think it's so enormous that everybody is recognizing and getting in touch with how powerful their own choices are day to day in their lives, small choices that add up. And that gets me very excited. Like, how can you contribute every day in what seem to be small ways, but ultimately I think are going to be the ways as a collective that do take us forward in a positive way.
Is there anyone specific that you want to mention that really had a really inspiring take on how to survive and resist this moment, and that people might want to listen to if they haven't heard it already?
I really think every single one of them touched on this each in their own way. It was everybody stepping further into who they are, like literally everyone facing this moment in a way that made them want to step further into their gifts and their identity in a firmer way. Like Maya Penn, who is an environmentalist, just reiterating all of the amazing things that are happening with the environment that she's in touch with. While it all seems apocalyptic and like it's going up in flames, she was very clear that there's so many incredible things going on for the environment, and they're happening everywhere, and we just don't know about it. Like Candice, which was the very first episode that we did. I mean, talking about how she's not a sideline girl.
If I go to heaven, because who knows, I want God to be like, well, shit, I knew you could do stuff, but hey, that wasn't in my plan. Like, I'm really trying to wring everything out of life. And yes, that comes at the risk of feeling shame, being embarrassed, being rejected. But I'm just not a sideline girl.
Like, I'll never forget that as long as I live. What she has been through to get to this place, turning 40, feeling ugly as a kid, feeling like she had no style, she wasn't beautiful, and just stepping little by little into her power. Amber Ruffin's line about what are we doing here? Like to be someone else's truth.
I feel like someone else's truth would have to be a lie. Wouldn't that be the definition of someone else's truth? But also then you have to accept the fact that you're interesting and people like you. Even if they didn't, you're still interesting.
Oh, that's really good. I need to stamp that on my body.
And how she stepped into her power with her work and comedy by literally failing, like getting totally through the fear of complete and utter failure constantly.
Do you get terrified?
No, not really. Because I have been booed. I've been booed within an inch of my life. So I mean, so what, chicken butt? Once you have proof that you will be fine, creatively and dangerous.
And then suddenly coming to the realization that what everyone wants for her is just to be herself and be the truth and not try too hard. Not try at all. Just like be yourself. And that's when her success came.
What about style-wise? Does anyone's style really inspire you this season? Perhaps an outfit that really made your heart sing? I think I know who it is.
Yes. Amelia Fart. Amelia Fart, that's been one of the most precious and beautiful things about doing this virtual podcast is to be able to connect with people that it's just not been possible because they don't live in LA or New York and we can't get to where they are. She's from Canada. And every word, we were just like in a trance the whole time. But she comes on in the layers of the tulle and the colors and the pins. Yes, I've been wearing all the pins. She has big brooches all over the place and some fantastical things with her ears that are like I don't think they're regular earrings that she's made. I find Amelia so inspiring with her style. It's just, we have a similar, I think, fantasy over the past and recreating the past. Her entire philosophy of life is stepping into the discomfort to set herself free. She's constantly setting herself free by being her most expressive, fantastical, imaginary self and going out into the world that way and then facing all of the criticism and all of the disapproval that she gets. That just becomes fuel for her to be freer. Her freedom in her style and her expression answers a lot of the questions that StyleLikeU is always trying to answer or express to the world in the questions that we ask other people, like assumptions that people make about you or how you are, bring up things in other people that show the conformity and show the boxes and show the fear that everyone else is living in. And for me, she's such an expression of that. Like how a lot of males are not attracted to her because she doesn't dress in the male gaze. She's not the typical patriarchal sort of expression of femininity that they approve of or that they're used to.
Not to stereotype, but just my experience, younger men seem to be bothered.
If that isn't a can of worms.
I'm not playing the game that I'm supposed to play. I'm not attractive to them. And that makes them mad. It's fascinating.
And I love all of that because I love to just reveal to everyone where we're tight, where we're judgmental, where we're fearful, where we could be more loving than as a result, more accepting. And a lot of that's just coming from an uptightness and a lack of freedom that we feel inside of ourselves and a programming that we can't love people for being different. When you can see that because someone doesn't appear to be like you and you then cannot find the beauty in them, then what does that say about you?
I mean, just as much as we've been conditioned about like what we think is beautiful in ourselves, like we've also been conditioned in as to what we think is attractive in another, kind of along the lines of what you're talking about. One question that a few people had a challenging time answering in this season of the show is when do you feel the most beautiful? And I think we've experienced that throughout the history of asking people that question. I think it brings up a lot to people because of what people can define beauty in so many different ways, and there's just a lot of charge there. Did you notice that as a theme of people
Yes.
struggling to answer that question, and what do you kind of attribute it to, if anything, as far as like why one might struggle?
Well, there's a couple of things. I think people have grown to be uncomfortable with that question because beauty has become associated with a stereotype and a status quo that makes most people feel not part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So in what I'm asking it, really saying, you're incredibly beautiful to me. I want to know, like, when do you feel beautiful, to yourself? Because I know that you're beautiful. And that was a great point in conversation with Heidi, who's around my age. She had a hard time answering that question.
I guess I have such a fucking stickler for the whole concept of beauty and beautiful and who's pretty and what.
Yeah.
It's like people say to me all the time, like, I can't believe you never got married. You're so pretty. Oh, so only pretty girls get married. Let me tell you, when I was growing up, I was not the pretty girl.
The pretty girl does this, the pretty girl.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's associating it with a negative thing when I'm saying it just because I see the beauty in them and I want them to see the beauty in themselves. So yeah, there's that. And even style and even clothing questions, I think people take a second and a beat to, more and more as time goes on, because that's also become associated with a certain superficiality. And we're not asking it from that place. I have to often explain that style is something and beauty is something that is inside, and it's not something that other people decide for you.
How do you define the word beauty, and like what do you mean when you're asking
yeah.
people when do they feel the most beautiful? What is the definition of beauty like within the Style Like You ethos?
There's just no question in my mind, as time has gone on, being at 67 years old, that beauty is something that is internal, that if you feel it, you radiate it.
Yeah, because I think that it's something that actually becomes external as well, but it starts with the internal.
It becomes external because of how you feel.
I think it's like when you own who you are from the inside out,
Yeah.
and like own the things about you that you were taught aren't beautiful and reclaim them as like your asset or your thing. Then you truly have like an energy about you that makes you like super hot, super beautiful.
I think they think that way because I'm so confident. I believe what they're saying to me is, your confidence is so beautiful. How do I get that?
But it's like anybody can possess it. It doesn't actually have to do with any one physical
Everybody has it.
trait.
It's
Yeah.
just that they don't realize. It's been drilled into us to not believe that we have it. It's there. The radiance and the sense of feeling of beauty is there. It's just that we have to peel the layers away to get back to it. I completely agree with you. I think that style and beauty is ultimately about a reclaiming of our power and our agency and our autonomy and our light. And, whoever said that you have to be a certain age to be beautiful, you have to be a certain weight to be beautiful, you have to be a certain skin color to be beautiful, you have to be a certain gender to be beautiful. I mean, that whoever said that, like who said that? That's just not true. Everybody possesses beauty and style and power, and it's something that you need to get back in touch with and reclaim and uncover within yourself.
But so when you're asking people when they feel the most beautiful and they can't answer it, they're still associating beauty with the one-dimensional like checkbox
Yes.
of what it could be, and feeling like maybe they're not that in some way.
Exactly. And I'm just asking the question, hoping that it will reflect back to them that they are beautiful and that it's not a word for someone else.
Mm-hmm. I imagine that even the people that have trouble answering it, the fact that they have trouble answering it leaves them with something to think about and reflect
Yes.
on, and maybe challenge their own perception of what that question might even mean,
Yeah.
or that word.
I love Lava LaRue. They talk about how everything aligned when they just function from the most pure part of themselves. So when they stepped into their queer identity, when they fell in love with a woman, every single thing aligned. Everything fell into place in their life. And they realized that how could any of this be wrong? How could anything be wrong that's alignment? It's kind of like the flower. Like, how could anything be wrong with you, with any of us? because we come from the same place, in our origin, in our most pure selves, not the programming, not the things that then make us do things that, we do need to heal from or get better at or change about ourselves because we're not functioning in our highest way, in our most loving way towards ourselves and towards others. But like the purest form of us, how could it be wrong?
And what about style? Like when people think it's superficial or have the idea that it's superficial, how would you challenge that? Like what could it be that is not that? And what should it be that's not that?
Yes. Style is like such a complicated one to answer, but I think it's whatever it is that feels completely aligned with you. Then it vibrates as style, as personal expression, as freedom, as love, the strongest and most potent vibrations that can come out of you. So that, again, it can't be wrong. It can't be wrong if it's something that's coming from you and your most aligned vision for yourself and what feels the most free and expressive to you. How could that be wrong?
Can you just describe for people that like might not understand like what style is in your mind as opposed to fashion and like why it matters?
I think style basically comes from acceptance. If you're trying to not be yourself, that's a low vibration. And that shows. You can feel that. So that for me is what fashion sort of tries to make you do, is to conform and to be like others and to want to fit into some kind of a box, to be afraid to stand out, to be afraid to be different. And that to me dims a person. And style is a way of expressing your brightest way of being, where you're completely unafraid and uninhibited to express. And that comes from a certain level of acceptance of your uniqueness, your authenticity, your difference, your singularity. And to not feel like that singularity and that difference is something to have shame around or to want to soften or blend in.
Erase or hide.
Right.
And is there anyone from this season that like challenged the way you think or changed the way you think about like self-acceptance or self-love or evolved your definition of it?
Well, I think V, who was formerly known as Eve Ensler.
I think we've spent a lot of time in this country worrying about the self. And I have to say I'm less and less interested in it.
We had an interesting dialogue around self-love. That may be worth talking about, maybe kind of answers your question. Because that's another thing that gets a bad rap that, can be associated with superficiality. And we did a lot of hashing of that out because they immediately were very much about too much self happening right now and not enough everybody and not enough caring about everybody, which I think is true.
Like what I care about is like, where do we converge in our collective solidarity for each other? That's where I find my love.
But I think that ultimately that is what true self-love brings, because my definition of self-love is recognizing that you are here for a reason, you have a purpose. It creates a certain calmness and serenity, and it creates you to get out of yourself. Self-love from like the superficial place, the kind of narcissistic individualism. I want to do this and I need to do this and this is for me and whatever. That's different than real self-love. Real self-love is actually understanding that you're connected to everything. So your actions and your feelings about yourself affect the whole. So it's really upon you, and the requirement for living in this world from the highest place that you can is to love yourself and to understand that you are a reflection of the universe, of the perfection of it all. You are that inside, and you are here for a reason, and you have a purpose, and you have gifts, and you have dreams that are meant to be lived and meant to be expressed. And that's what ultimately is good for the collective. When you're hating on yourself or feeling a lot of shame and feeling like you're not valuable and you don't have a lot of self-worth, that's what actually creates negativity and separation.
Projection and
Fear and so it's interesting because I feel like that that self-love, style, beauty, all of these things have become lost in social media, marketing, co-opting. Capitalism has demeaned the meaning of them, but in actuality, these are extremely important parts of our sense of wholeness and autonomy and agency. And when we have that, then we have so much to give. Like, I know that when I'm in my best state of feeling supported, ultimately loving myself and feeling comfortable in feeling loved and feeling part of the whole and not feeling like I'm this misfit or like separate from it all, then I have endless amounts to give. And there's so much room for me to care and not be struggling to try to catch up or belong, but feeling a sense of peace that I'm just supposed to be myself and things will work out. And that leaves a lot of room for me to be my biggest self and the most giving to other people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, completely,
Yeah.
100%. The more that we embrace the parts of ourselves that we were taught to have shame around or that we rejected or we've turned away from, the more we don't get as triggered by other people and actually can like have a lot more of like a capacity for empathy and for capacity to show up in the world and to do the work that's needed to like make the world a better place. So if that's the intention with which you're holding self-love, then it's not a selfish act.
Yeah. When you are feeling the most self-loving and you are feeling that you are a reflection of the perfection of the universe, of love, of the intelligence that brought us here, then you have this enormous capacity inside of you to hold like the bigness of that. And you have so much to offer and to give. It creates
sure.
capacity, whereas the dimming and the insecurities and the fears and the feeling of separateness and the not enoughness and the low self-worth creates no energy. It creates you to be exhausted and drained, catching up or trying to find these things on the outside or trying to get validation on the outside. All these things dims your capacity, takes away your capacity.
Totally.
We are actually in a beginning of an enlightenment and that we are in a transformation that's very exciting despite the pain and the ugliness and the horror of it all. The choices that we make can contribute in a huge way to a positive change and can not just be a Band-Aid, but an actual
Reimagination of
resolving of the enormity of the problems that we're facing. And that it starts here in your heart.
And last, Mom, can you let the listeners know what they can look forward to now that we're going to be in the off season of Don't Change a Thing and we have a lot of StyleLikeU activities and videos and content coming their way?
Yes.
What kinds of things can they look forward to?
Yes, we're back. We're going to be releasing What's Underneath episodes, closet episodes, favorite things,
Some new videos formats that we're creating.
new video formats, but all delivering the same message around.
How to accept and express your authentic self.
We finally have come to the one
It's taken
sentence.
us 15 years to figure out what one sentence is that can describe our mission.
Yes.
We actually came up with it like 10 years ago, but we just forgot that we already came
Okay.
up with it. And then we struggled again for 10 more years to communicate what we stand for. But yeah, content that's about helping you accept and express your authentic self.
Because it really matters when you do that, not only for your own happiness and your own healing and your own making the absolute most of your most beautiful and important life, but also that is what ultimately contributes to your happiness, contributes to the happiness of the world. And yeah, and that's why we're so driven to do all of this. Also, community.
Yeah, and stay tuned because we're drumming up some really exciting ways for our community to connect with each other and share your stories of self-acceptance and self-expression. Participate in our series in your own ways and in the questions we ask our guests and events. And there's a lot that's being drummed up that's new, that's not even, it's never been seen before on our YouTube channel. So it's coming to you later in this fall. So yeah, keep an eye out for all of that. Okay, well, those are my questions. Is there anything else you want to say, Mom?
No, this was fun. I appreciate it. I hope everyone has a chance to look back on any of the episodes that they didn't see, because I think each one of them has stuck very deep inside all of myself and in my heart, and has changed me and transformed me a lot. And I feel could potentially do that for all of you. So I hope you have a chance to listen.
Well, thank you everyone so much for listening and being on the journey. And we look forward to sharing more with you very soon.
Yes, we are so grateful to all of you and couldn't be doing any of this without you, and love you all so much.